Alex here, hope you're well. This is me doing a review of the furrymunchkins.com.au photography website. Keith, I hope you'll find this review useful. I'll try to talk about the website's design, SEO, and also performance, and try to answer the specific questions you asked in one of your emails as well. Before I start, let me just preface this by saying that the site is overall above average. It's pretty good, but I'd say I still have a lot of things to cover. So let's dive right in. First, I want to talk about the design aspects of the website, and I'll start with kind of the template in general, which applies to all the pages throughout your website, which is the header area, the navigation menu, and the footer. In the header, why not start with the logo directly? Design-wise, I think it's really good. Visually, though, it looks to me a bit pixelated, a bit noisy, and if you place close attention, you can see that on the contours of the dog and the cat, and also in the smaller pet photography text. It's not sharp enough, so you might need to re-export that, re-upload that, so it looks a bit sharper. But beyond that, I think in terms of layout, it's not really positioned well. This type of logo that you have is kind of displayed in a vertical layout. You have all the elements in the logo, one below the other, centered. So this type of logo works really well when it's positioned in the center of the website as well. If you want to place it on the left, like you did, then you'd go with a different layout, which is to have the graphic symbol, the icon on the left of the text, so it doesn't take up so much vertical space. But because of the way you have it now, it is pushing everything else lower down the page, the navigation menu, and then the rest of the content, of course. On a large desktop screen, that might not be a big issue, but imagine visitors using a really small laptop screen browsing your website. They would basically see half of their screen filled up by just the header area, including the navigation menu, which is not ideal. You can make that a bit more compact while still keeping it breathing. So with plenty of white space, you'd still make it more compact. But back to the layout of the logo, what I'm referring to, and I'll try to show you examples from a couple of other websites. This is another pet photography website that I think I also showed you in one of my emails. You can see the graphic icon of the dog here is placed on the left of the text, which makes it more compact vertically, so it fits better. You could try to do the same if you're keen on keeping the logo on the left like you have. You have the logo on the left and contact information and a call to action button on the right. The layout is similar, but you can just see the space it takes vertically on your website, and then the general design of it as well. Another example is this website, which again has the graphic icon on the left, and you can see how tiny the header area is just because of the layout of the logo. So you could do something like that. Okay, besides that, I think the information on the right could be further improved as well. You have the email and the phone number. I don't think there's any reason to actually write the text, email, and then phone number, because it's obvious what those are. You could just use small icons to portray them, just like you can see here, a phone icon and an envelope icon. And then look at how the call to action button is designed here. You can see the paddings around the text are more balanced. There is plenty of space of padding on the left and the right of the text inside the button, whereas in your case it's too tall and it's not wide enough. It doesn't have enough padding on the left, so it's too strong now. I feel you could make it smaller a bit, reducing its height. And also, and this kind of applies to all the buttons on your website, is to make them with rounded corners. Use the border radius CSS definition, because I think that's usually friendlier on the eyes, just like you see on this website example. Okay. Beyond that, here's another example of a website with kind of a similar layout. Sorry. With the logo on the left, then you have the navigation menu, and again contact information and a call to action button on the right. This one has square buttons. They're not rounded, but it's in theme with the rest of the website design. But just another example for you as inspiration. The entire header area is compact enough so it doesn't push too much of the content too low. Beyond that, let's now talk a bit about the navigation menu. I don't really like that it's going so wide on the page. It's expanding full width automatically, and that doesn't really look too well. I would restrict the width of the navigation menu to be in line with the content area of the page, or to be aligned in terms of width to these two images here, or something like that. Not span to the edges of the page. I think that doesn't look that good, and you can see on most websites it's like this. They're restricted to be aligned with the left of the logo, and on the right to be aligned with the call to action information that you have as well. So I think that would be an improvement visually. And the other point is the drop-down menu is not very visible because it's just this thin font being used with no background color whatsoever for the drop-down menu. So it's just white on white. So I would add some sort of background color just for the drop down box that shows over here, just to make it stand out a bit, or some sort of other visual change to make the drop down menu a bit more prominent. Other than that, it's okay. And now let's head over to the footer area. So basically this section here shows up on every page throughout your website, which I think it's actually a good idea. I don't think too many photographers include their contact information so well, and you have to search for it. Visually, my recommendations here would be to be consistent with the use of letter spacing. You can see that you have added through your page builder, through CSS code, through your Wix template options or something, you have added letter spacing. This text is more compact, whereas your name is not. This one has letter spacing as well. I don't think it looks a bit messy that way. You should just remove letter spacing and not use that as a way to create emphasis in your text, just because it makes the typography messier. Other than that, just small visual issues. You can see that the underline for the email address goes a bit to the left of the K. I think you also have a space that's part of the link. You can also make the phone number clickable into a link. You just as for the email, you're using the mail to link. For phones, you should use tel, TEL colon and then the phone number in the link href tag. That's usually helpful on mobile devices because people navigating your website on the go, they can just tap the phone number and then it would trigger a call on their phone directly. And one last thing here in the footer, actually two things. One, don't use the Google Plus icon here because it's misleading. And I know you're not actually pointing to the Google Plus profile anymore since those are gone. They no longer exist. And you've repurposed this third icon here to act as an email link. But then the icon is misleading. So use an envelope icon for email links. I think that would be more straightforward and familiar. Other than that, one last thing is you have the contact form on the right, which is good. I just feel visually that the two big yellow buttons here kind of fight for attention a bit. And I'm trying to think of a way how to solve this because it seems, it just looks like they're part of the same thing. So you can keep the one on the left as it is, ideally by making both with rounded corners if you can, just like I said earlier. But maybe the one on the right, make it more explicit, make it more clear by renaming it from submit to send a contact message, which I think is what the form is all about. So that would improve things a bit. And then at the very end, the copyright notice, I would make that a tiny bit smaller so it's more discreet. It doesn't stand out so much. I think overall, those changes would make the footer area cleaner and more inviting. Other than that, on mobile devices, let me just for a second preview the website. Let me refresh on the phone. Again, the top area where you have the logo takes up too much vertical space, so it pushes everything down. You can see, let's say 40% of the screen real estate is taken by the header area. And then secondly, you have the chat feature, which kind of takes up a big chunk of the bottom of the screen, which is not good either. So maybe on mobile devices, you can disable the chat functionality completely, or just have the chat symbol in the corner somehow so it's more discreet, because right now you shouldn't be blocking so much of the screen with it. Okay, back to the desktop view of the homepage. With the kind of the general template of the website out of the way, let's now talk directly about the homepage, the most important page on your website, of course. Right off the bat, I noticed a scroll bar, a horizontal scroll bar, which is only on the homepage. Your other pages don't have this problem from what I could see. You should check the various sections and elements you've added to this page to see which one is causing this. In my kind of brief experiments, I think it's this section with the two images, the two portraits. Something in the CSS code of this section is forcing a large width of this block, so the browser needs to add the horizontal scroll bar. This is annoying, and you should try to fix this and test the website a bit more so you get rid of it. I remember once I got into the developer code for this, and I removed this section, just this section alone, the horizontal scroll bar went away. So I think the problem lies here somewhere, but you need to do more testing to clean this up. Okay, let's talk about let's talk about the intro area, where you currently have just these two images to start with, and then a headline, and then some more text about on what the website is all about. What I'm not really fond of is the intro area. Maybe you can replace these two images with something a bit more interesting. I know you're kind of conveying your photography niche with these two images. It's pretty simple, but I'll try to show you what I had in mind to make the top of the homepage a bit more interesting visually. First, it's this example, which you've seen before, which shows 5 images, so more images, just to show a bit more range, a bit more examples of what you can do. And by the way, these are all clickable, so if you click on them, they open up in kind of a light box view where you can view them larger. This is one method, so a bigger grid of images instead of just those two. Another example is this theme demo. It's from a WordPress theme. You don't need to use necessarily to switch to WordPress or switch to this theme in particular. It's just a visual example that I wanted to show you, which is kind of a collage of images. And just imagine that you would do something similar with cat and dog portraits, kind of an unequal, asymmetrical collage of photos on top of the homepage and made to go full width, so right to the edges of the browser and not just restricted like here. Maybe that would create an interesting layout. You can do experiments with that. You don't need fancy plugins or theme options or anything like that. It would just be a static image done by you in Photoshop, arranging the photos in an interesting collage like this. Just an idea. And one more example. This is actually a screenshot of another pet photography website. It's an older version of the website, but by the way, you can see here a logo that's centered because it's displayed in kind of a vertical layout, just like you have it. So that's why it's positioned in the center with the menu items to the sides, not below the logo, just to save vertical space, like I said. But on the homepage, there's this really interesting collage of photos again. It's more geometric, it's more aligned than the previous example. But again, it's, to me as a user, it's so much more visually interesting and powerful than just the two images with the dogs and the cat here. Hope you draw some inspiration from this. Let's keep going. The headline, first of all, maybe there's a typo here. You should check. I'm not a native English speaker, so I might be mistaken, but Creating beautiful artwork that keeps isn't the artwork, which is singular, so then it should be keeps. I don't know if this is considered, how do you say, the type of noun that requires a plural? I don't know, but maybe double check with the copywriter that it shouldn't be artwork that keeps your fur kit in your heart forever. Other than that, I think you could rephrase this to make it sound better and more powerful. The bit that should be strongest should be the one at the start of the text. But in this text, this part is the most important to me. Keeping your fur kit in your heart forever. So why not start with that and say something like, keep your fur kit in your heart forever on the first line, with beautiful artwork on the second line, or with our creative artwork, or something like that. So reverse the two rows and try to rework it a bit to emphasize this part, the keeping them in their hearts, to, trigger their emotional response with this. Because otherwise they just start by reading this, which is actually in this yellow, which stands out, so it's emphasized. They start reading about creating beautiful artwork, which is a bit too vague. It doesn't really convey anything necessarily. Artwork is such a vague word, so yeah. Then the text, I think it's written well, and the length of it is good as well. Maybe my only comment would be that you're using the word fur kit too often. Maybe you might want to add some variation to include other nouns, other synonyms, just to spice things up, and that would maybe help with SEO as well. I'll try to address that a bit later in the recording when I talk about SEO, but just to keep in mind here. The call to action button here is great. It's pointing to the booking page. Again, my previous comments on the design of the call to action buttons to make them wider, so more extra space to the sides of the text, and then maybe also use rounded corners for all the buttons. I think that would make them friendlier to see. These three icons and columns with text, I think they're great. They're pointing to contact, booking, and pricing pages. Maybe not all people will find it intuitive that they can click on the icons to go to the respective pages. So add small buttons underneath the text as well, just to make it extra obvious. Because otherwise, these large icons just look like decorative elements. They don't look like links. So add extra buttons underneath. Let's see, what else? If we scroll down the homepage, the testimonial section is fine, I think. Then this part with the picking of the two portraits, these link to the two portfolio pages you have. I think these two icons should be clickable as well. Maybe because you've made them so large, they stand out. And I do see that they are links as well, but only halfway up the icon. You can't click in the bottom portion of the dog or the cat to go there, only if you place the cursor higher up. So this needs to be addressed somehow. And other than that, it's fine. Visually, it's fine. No other changes here. The text here needs, you need to remove the empty space in between them. So reduce the line height. Bring these two rows of text closer together. Uh, these three columns, I think they're good. They have interesting text. Maybe change the background color for the middle column, because to separate it from the rest of the white section, it's now white on white. It just looks like a gap. Make it a very light gray, or just something off-white. That could work. And finally, I would try to come up with a different text here, because this one sounds just a bit too wishy-washy, just too vague. Begin your journey with us today. It sounds like something from an infomercial. So just change it to something more actionable and accurate, like get in touch with us today for a photo session or something like that. And then the rest is fine. The image is fine. Maybe it's a bit too noisy. It's not sharp enough. You might try to re-upload it or something. But other than that, it's fine. Okay. Let's spend a few minutes going through the other pages in your website, one by one. The About page, I think it's good. The text, I've read through the text. I think it's fine. Maybe try to bold less of the text. It's you have too many sections that are emphasized with bold, and it's a bit too messy. Reduce the usage of bold fonts to about half. Booking button, that's good. The images and the image captions you have, they're really good. I think the About page is pretty good. It's way better than the average bio pages that photographers have. You included a ton more information, so that's really good. No other comments here, basically. On the portfolio pages, first of all, I noticed you have kind of a main portfolio index page with just the two blocks for dogs and cats, which I think is good, because not all people know that they can or cannot click on the top level menu item when you have a drop down. But once you do click and you end up on the individual dogs or cats page, the heading at the top seems a bit too SEO focused for my taste, especially because of this pipe character, the vertical line, which is usually only used in SEO titles and meta descriptions. So break this off into two lines. Just say professional dog photographer, Sydney. Again, it sounds fake. You wouldn't read this out loud to a friend, right? I'm a professional dog photographer, Sydney. You would say, I'm a professional dog photographer in Sydney. So put that in. Google can infer meaning from whatever variation of text. You don't have to match this exact phrase that you maybe want to rank for and put it on the page. That's too much. Make it sound more natural. So on the first line, you'd have this, in Sydney. And then on the second line, you just have your name. I think that would be good. Plenty of text on this page as well, which is excellent. Selections of photos. You have strong images, so they work really well. You could include more dog photos and turn these into sliders, just like you did on the cats portfolio. But that just depends on your choice of image selections and so forth. The cats page is similar. It's just that you have more images here. Other than that, it's good. You've included a bunch of testimonials, which is excellent. And then you have call to action buttons at the end pointing to the info page, which I think it's the how it works page. Yes. Again, you can see the design of the buttons here. That could be improved. Okay, let's move on to the how it works page. Great content here as well. Great use of the testimonials with the image. It looks well visually. Button design here again should be improved. You breaking down the content into these 5 steps is a really good idea instead of just boring blocks of text. So well done there. The images are fine too. And then you're linking to the pricing page. So excellent. No other comments here. Well done. Pricing page. Now here, visually, my complaint is that they should stand out more. They should be separated a bit visually, and I'll try to find some examples here as well. Let me check. So this is one page. One website. Let's check the pricing page. You can see the package is broken down into 2 columns, just like you have. It's just that the big images make them stand out a bit better, and there's extra spacing than you do. Here's another. This is a wedding photography website. You can see that there are 4 columns here, but they have their own boxes with a discrete background color. I think that helps. Or again, the same website, which I'm referencing a lot in this recording, where you can see on the pricing page, again, 2 main kind of packages, but the use of the background colors as boxes makes them separate somehow. They stand out a bit better. You could do something like that here as well. Now, kind of a personal comment would be, why not increase your prices? To me, they sound too low. It's funny. Whenever I read business advice or what pricing consultants teach other people, is to always double your prices. And then the funny anecdote there is that someone was told to double their prices overnight because it would help their business. And then their reaction was, how could I double my prices? I would lose half of my clients. And that's exactly it. You'd get the same amount of income, but with half the effort, or generally less of the effort and time spent doing it. So to me, you have great images on the website and you should charge more. So I'm trying to give you more courage in that direction, but you know your business and market better than I do. Okay, the rest is pretty good to me. The slider is good. The selection of images here where you showcase actual products and wall art and albums and all of that, it's fine. The use of testimonials is good as well. This left-right alternating layout is fine. It's better. Other than that, yeah, it's good. Contact page. I noticed you have kind of 2 main action pages on your website. One is this contact page and the other is your booking page, which just contains the booking form here from Acuity Scheduling, which is good. But this page looks good to me. Maybe a recommendation here is that I'm seeing you're using the first person here. I'm excited. And I will be sure. But I remember seeing some other pages in your website that you are using the plural version, right? You're using we or us. You should definitely try to be consistent with that. So scan all the pages in your website and look for the use of I, me versus us or we, and choose one over the other and make that the default throughout your website. Otherwise, it creates confusion. People don't really know if it's just you behind the website or if it's a team. Either way, you should take that decision and make that clear throughout the website. Yeah, I think other than that, the contact page is good. Maybe one last comment I have about the website design in general. Again, I've said this previously, the use of FurKit, it's too much for me. It's really a good word. It sounds good and funny and friendly, but I counted it being used 13 times on the homepage, and on the about page it's being used 14 times. That's to me way too much. So try to do a bit of research on Google to find some synonyms or variations that you can use, and I think that should also help you a bit with SEO, because I haven't done advanced keyword research on this, but I would imagine not much of your target audience is using FurKit in their online searches. So try to use different words throughout your website. Then let's look at the 3 landing pages you've sent me. This one is supposed to be for events in Lane Cove. Right off the bat, you can see that I'm greeted with this very intrusive pop-up, which is too strong, and I think there's something wrong with the page here, because I have 2 X icons that I can click to close. Not sure which is which, so I'll click this one and then I'm left with another overlay. I need to close this one. So there's something wrong with the pop-ups there. You need to check and make it less strong, less intrusive. Same thing with the vertical space at the top, too much empty space, and then with the title at the top, it sounds too SEO-ish. Rework it so it sounds more natural. The layout of the page in general is pretty good. The embedded subscribe form, some more text, images, let's see, the icons. Here, same as on the homepage, add buttons underneath all the 3 columns. Don't just rely on people clicking the large icons. And again, the design of the buttons can be improved. Testimonials, images, text, same thing with the homepage for this column. Be the first to know. Again, this page for some reason has a horizontal scroll bar. You should look into that as well. Other than that, it's good. Then you have the thank you page for the Lane Cove events. Again, you can see how low on the screen does the title start because of the height of the header, and again because of extra empty space at the start of the page. So that needs fixing. Other than that, the text is good. I've read through it. No other comments here. Don't use underline when it's not a link because it's a bit misleading. You should emphasize using bold or italics, but underline text usually looks like a link on most websites out there. Not in your case, but try to avoid that when you can. Other than that, it's good. It's just a simple thank you page, so this is less important in the grand scheme of things. And then you have another landing page, which for a new puppy, probably some sort of photography session or service. And you've told me this one is not completed yet. and you haven't connected the right email service or email sequence to it. But I just think the start of the page needs some visual interest, so add some sort of line of thumbnails or small grid of avoid your 3 deepest fears section. I think it's good. It's strong emotionally. Downloading the free ebook, I think this works well, but again, add a button here as well. Don't just rely on people clicking on the image. It's not intuitive enough. Same thing with this section with the 3 columns. You can see the button design here. The text goes all the way to the edges of the button, which is not good. Other than that, it's fine. Maybe add a bit more empty space to the bottom of the page underneath the subscribe section. It's too close to the edge of the page. Okay, so that kind of covers the SEO. Let's now the landing pages. Let's now talk about the SEO. I've done some tests of your websites and some SEO tools, and I've also manually looked at the source code and whatever SEO details I could find. And overall on your website, I think you're not doing a particularly good job with SEO, the SEO kind of technical stuff. I think it's in a good direction, in a good place with copywriting, with the amount and kind of quality of the content, the text content on your website. But in terms of technical stuff, you're not doing that well. And by that, I mean that you're not using heading tags, H1, H2, H3 tags on your page as well, or at all. And images also don't have all tags, which is another SEO opportunity lost. And a way for you to look into this is to use this tool from browseo.net. And you type in your website, and it basically shows you a preview of exactly how Google would interpret your website, because Google can only see the text. So in your pages, first of all, let's look at the SEO title and meta descriptions. The title is here: Sydney Dog and Cat Photographer, Separator, Furry Munchkins Pet Photography. I think this one is good. The length of it is good as well. You can see it in the SERP preview here. It fits, so no comments there. The meta description is here, and it's pretty good. It's written well, but you would need to shorten it. It's now at 213 characters. You need to try to bring it down to around 160. Otherwise, you can see that it gets truncated with 3 dots with an ellipsis in Google search results, and you don't want that when you can better control how it looks. The meta description, I mean, some people say that it's not a ranking factor on its own, what you write in here, but it's still greatly important because it's what convinces people to click on your website. So they make a search in Google, your website might come up for that search, and they glance over this section. What you put here, including the meta description, is what can intrigue them. It's what can convince them to give you their clicks, to click on your website. So you need to make that count. And if it's long like this and it gets truncated, you're not doing the best possible job with it. But back on the left to the preview of how Google is reading your website, you can see that for the logo, it's reading the file name, because there's no alt tag, it's just Furry Munchkins JPEG parenthesis 1. It's not ideal. You can put a different file name there, but it's less important in this case, just for the logo. Then it sees the contact information you have at the top, the navigation menu, these two images, and you can see the file names because they don't have alt tags. So if you're not familiar with what alt tags are for images, I won't spend time here to do that, but you can just Google what they mean and how you can control them. You can do that in Wix as well. And even if you fail to add any alt tags, the file names of the actual images could be improved as well. Sphinx, which I assume is the name of this cat, and then Sydney Harbor Bridge. But then how would this be relevant to SEO, to search queries out there? People don't know how to search for this particular cat's name, of course. So why not have the file name something like cat portrait on Sydney Harbor Bridge pier or post or whatever this is, which is more appropriate. Maybe people do want to search for cat portraits, so you would fit the bill then with this type of file name or alt tag. This one is better, but you could include the word portrait or pet photography or something in the file name, and the same in the alt tag. Then in the code, Google sees some mumbo jumbo, is what I call this, from the Wix template. That's fine. People don't see this, so it's just technical source code from the website. And then the rest of the text you have on the side, you can see this image doesn't have any alt tag. Neither do these two images. They just have the file names, which are better but could be improved. So this is just an idea of how to be more mindful of the text you put on your website. And then before I forget, I mentioned headings. So your homepage only has these 3 H2 headings: status, positivity, and security. You have no H1 heading at all, and no H3 at all as well. But every single page on your website should have one and only one H1 tag per page. In your case, it should be this one because it's at the start of the page and it's visually large and important. So this should be turned into an H1 tag. I think right now it's nothing, it's just a regular span element, but you can set it to be an H1 HTML tag. And then use H2 tags and H3 kind of to dictate a hierarchy of the content on the page. So these could be H2 or maybe H3 tags. This could be an H2 as of secondary importance. This could be an H2 as well, H3, H2, and that kind of breaks the content of the homepage down into a hierarchy. Only one H1 tag per page, and then use of H2s and H3s as the content dictates. In my tests, I've noticed many other pages do not have an H1 tag at all, which is a big kind of opportunity lost with SEO. And those pages are the homepage, the about page, the booking page, the dogs portfolio, the main portfolio page, and then also the guide page. So you should edit all of those pages to try to add an H1 tag at the top. Then another problem I noticed by looking in your site's source code is that you have 2 pages that do not contain an SEO meta description. Most of your main pages do, but the booking page and the guide page are missing a meta description completely, so you should add one. And then some of your pages, they have quite similar meta descriptions. So if we look into the source code of the About Us page, you can see, let me find it, description. It's somewhere here in the code. Okay, so it's here. Meta description. Oh, I was actually referring to the title. The title is About Us, Pipe or Separator, Sydney Pet Photography, Separator, Furry Munchkins Pet Photography. And many pages on your website share this same suffix, and just the name of the page changes. And those pages are the About, Cats, Dogs, Contact, Portfolio, Pricing. Ideally, this is just the default. So this comes from your site settings. It's the name of the website, and then just the title of the page changes, and that gets put by default into the title tag, which is important for SEO. Ideally, you should try to make them all unique in somehow, customize them for each of your pages. Otherwise, it's just repeating content. You have Sydney Pet Photography, and then Furry Munchkins Pet Photography again. So you're using the pet photography phrase twice on almost all of the pages in your website. And Google will just know that you're trying to over rank for that phrase, and it will then ignore it. Google will start to ignore repeating content because it knows you're forcing that for SEO purposes. So it will ignore it. It's kind of a gray hat SEO practice. You should make them all unique. Think of humans reading these SEO titles and meta descriptions in Google search results pages. Try to convince them there by what they read to give you their clicks, not try to trick Google into ranking you for pet photography. That's just not how it works. Okay, back to SEO in general. I think you should go through most of the pages in your website and look into the alt tags of your images, add some if they don't have them. Just no need to force keywords in here either. You just describe the photos as accurately as you can. Maybe try to include portrait or pet photography or dog photos, cat pictures, or variations of that sort in there if possible. And yeah, other than that, if you fix those things, then your on-site SEO should be in a good place. Maybe one last comment here would be to include throughout your website more mentions of the locations you cover with your photography services. Lane Cove, North Shore, any others that you go to often. Include them in your text somewhere. Don't just say Sydney everywhere, because however specific the phrases are, they might match the searcher's intent better. And if someone searches for Lane Cove pet photographer and you show up there, they're more inclined to trust you because they see that you covered that specific location exactly they're just they see you more as an expert instead of if you're a general photographer in the Sydney area. So don't shy away from mentioning all the locations that you cover more often throughout the text on your website. Let's move on a bit to a different topic, which is website performance. It's so and so, I would say. It's not that good, but it's not your mistake necessarily. It's just the Wix platform in general. For example, Google PageSpeed Insights is complaining that a couple of JavaScript files from Wix are delaying the loading of your pages by 4 seconds or so. And there's nothing you can do about this. It's just a long script using by the Wix template. So I don't have any big recommendations in this department because it's not something to do with the use of images or anything like that, which is what most photographers have problems with. It's just how the website is coded and structured because of the platform. So there's nothing else you can do here. In GT metrics, another popular performance tool, the scores look a bit better, and that's good. Again, I don't think you can fix these issues. So no other comments on performance, just because your hands are tied a bit with Wix. And I'll try to address the use of Wix in general in the next portion of this recording where I answer your questions. But for now, just maybe take a look at this help page from Wix's website, where they give you some recommendations on how to improve the speed of your website. Maybe there are small bits that you can do on yourself, and I'll be sure to give you the link to this page in an email as well. Okay, let's now address the 5 specific questions you asked me in your emails. Number 1, you asked, how can I set myself apart as Sydney's go-to cat photographer while still attracting dog owners in a meaningful way? That's an excellent question. And I think if you do want to prioritize cat portraits over dog portraits, you can definitely do that, and it makes sense. You know your business best. But you're not doing this through content at the moment, and I think you should. And it's quite clear to see if we just look at the homepage a bit. If we scroll a bit on the homepage, you can see what I mean. In your logo, you have 2 icons, a dog and a cat. And for everyone reading and writing from left to right, the dog is first. So the dog is first. Then the 2 images that you start your homepage with, you have dogs first, cats second. If I scroll down, the next image I see on your homepage is with dogs. Then you have dogs first again on the left. At the end of the homepage, you have a dog again. So you can clearly see the pattern here. If you want to promote cat photography more, then give them more visual real estate throughout your website. Put them in front of the dogs. Give them more priority. You do that through the use of images, through any text, like I showed you, through the images you use for testimonials. Put the cat's portfolio first before dogs and things like that. That's how you position yourself as more of a cat expert. That's one way. So just don't be afraid to make these changes, because when you're afraid to not alienate dog lovers, you end up not impressing cat persons either. So if you want to focus more on cat portraits, then make that a more prominent feature throughout the content and images you put on your website. I think that's it. That's the main way that you can emphasize this on your website. It's not that complicated. You just need to tweak the content. Your second question was, am I able to make the changes you suggest using Wix, or is it time I look towards another platform? This is difficult to answer, but I'll give it a go. I think from what I mentioned in terms of design changes and maybe SEO tweaks as well in this recording, maybe 30% or so can be done inside the Wix site options and page builder. You can do that visually through using the controls that Wix provides you. Maybe another 30-40% you can do it with custom CSS code if you have experience with that, or hire a developer to help you code some features, some visual changes using CSS code beyond what the theme options allow you to do. And maybe the last third of the changes, I would say they're not possible with Wix. It's simply just not as powerful and flexible as a WordPress website. The greater decision of moving from Wix to a different platform, and by different platform, I'm obviously referring to WordPress, because that's the big elephant in the room. It powers a third of the entire internet, and for obvious reasons, you wouldn't be migrating to Squarespace or Weebly or other platforms similar to Wix, because you'd end up having the same limitations. But the move to WordPress is not straightforward. You cannot export and import the content into a WordPress theme. That's just not how it goes. It would kind of have to be rebuilt from scratch. It can be made to match or mimic your current website design, but it would also become a good opportunity to redesign it more from scratch to improve things. So it could turn up and become quite big of a project, and it depends on your time and your budget, if you see it as an investment in growing your business, or maybe the opposite, maybe based on the low traffic your website is getting in general. From what I read in one of your emails, I think you can also stay on the Wix platform for now and grow your business more through other means, like just through word of mouth and just by gathering more experience in that way. It's a business investment decision in some way, and that's not something I can take from you. I'm just trying to give you more clarity to help you make a more informed decision. Hope that helped a bit. Your question number 3. Is a separate landing page the way to go for my commercial vet clinic photography? As I don't actively tell my clients that I'm a veterinarian, and I want to make it simple and easy for vets to book me. My first thought is that you should mention that you're a vet too. I think that just your regular target audience, the ones booking your pet portraits, they would trust you more knowing that you're a vet. I'm just thinking I would trust a photographer knowing that they also have experience as a veterinarian, just because they probably know how to handle animals, how to be friendly with them. They care about them, so I would trust you more. So I think you should mention that throughout your website. You could add a separate portfolio page, a third option, just call it vet clinics. You could mention this fact on your pricing page. Somewhere maybe lower down the page, you could add a section called saying like, for commercial vet clinic photography, click here, and you would link that to a separate page. I would keep that information as a separate page, sure, but I wouldn't shy away from mentioning this on your website. So yeah, create a separate landing page, but mention the fact that you do commercial projects for vet clinics and that you have experience as a veterinarian. I don't see why not. Question number 4. How can I showcase my photos and testimonials in a way that makes my potential clients stop in their tracks and want to find out more? Of course, strong images trump everything else. That's the foundation of every good photography website. So you should just start with that. Scan your computer and make an even stronger selection of your best work. I have a couple of articles on my website on this topic. The one is this one. I'll share the links over email, where you can see some tips on how to create a stronger portfolio, and then this kind of related article on how to set the order of those images in slideshows or on portfolio pages. Other than that, you convey, you make your website visually powerful and make people stop in their tracks as you wrote it by just having a cleaner website design, which is all the things that I mentioned. Otherwise, the website now is not in a bad place, sure, but it's just needs to be more polished a bit to make it look a bit more modern and professional and not a bit all over the place visually. If you just polish those details, and most of that you can do in Wix, I think that ends up being, the je ne sais quoi, the invisible thing that makes people love a website without really knowing why, but they would trust you more. And maybe one other comment here would be that on the homepage, you can maybe add an extra testimonial. I think you just have one here. So add one again, lower down the page, maybe above this section, above the begin your journey with us. Add an extra testimonial because that's social proof and it helps position you as an expert more. And question number 5 out of 5, how can I make it an enjoyable and simple experience for my potential clients without making them feel confused, especially with my prices? For example, people thinking that my $250 session fee includes all the digital files. I think the answer here is pretty simple. You do that through text. Copywriting is the tool you can use to pre-answer all of the questions on your website. How could they be confused that your $250 session includes digital files if you included this line here? I think it's enough. If they miss it for some reason, you can just point them back to the page. In your email conversations, make sure you're emphasizing this bit as well, just to reiterate it. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else you can do. When people are confused, when they want to work with you, and okay, they saw your website, but then they got in touch and they still have a ton of questions, it just means that your website wasn't clear and straightforward enough to inform them of everything before contacting you. And you can take care of that through copywriting, through text. Add more information on the pricing page. Look through your past email archive, through all the repeating email answers you've provided. Gather those up and create a separate FAQ page, or maybe a small FAQ section somewhere here on the pricing page, just to pre-answer as many questions as possible. Don't be afraid to include so many questions and answers, because maybe you would push some people away. Maybe they won't like some of your answers, because overall you will attract more people. You would inspire trust more, just because most people would have their questions answered, so they'll trust you more. So overall, I think it helps. That's about it. Hope this website review was helpful. Overall, I think, let me end just by saying that the site is pretty good. It's definitely above average, but as you saw, there's still much room for improvement. There always is, and it's fine. Don't be discouraged by that. You're really going in the right direction, and the image quality and the content level is up there. So even if you decide on staying on the Wix platform, I think you can still end up with an awesome website if you polish all the details. And maybe consider adding a blog section to your website at some point. Maybe that would help in the long run as well. It would definitely help with SEO, but also just to give people glimpses behind the scenes, how you work, more examples from your photo sessions and things like that. If you're interested in learning more about blogging, I have an upcoming course on blogging. You can find it on my website, foregroundweb.com/blogging. You can check that out soon. Other than that, the content you have on your pages is pretty good, apart from what I recommended. And I'd say that overall you weren't doing major mistakes like I see on many other photography websites, functionality problems, pop-ups, ads, or things like that. The website is fairly clean and minimalistic. It's just a bit rough around the edges, and if you polish things up and you make a few content tweaks, overall I think it could turn into a really, really good photography website. Hope this was useful. Good luck with the changes, and don't hesitate to email me once you've made the changes. I'd be happy to take another look. Good luck. Bye.